Let's go wait for the live video to come up on Instagram. Always takes a second. And there we go. Go live. Perfect. And I'm pretty sure we're live.
You're live.
Great. Awesome. Good morning. It is. Are you ready? All right.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Here we go. Good morning. Good morning. No. It's
for me.
Yeah, exactly. It's Tuesday, July 7th, 2026. Welcome to Jack Einecker Show. I am your host, Jack Einecker. I am joined once again by my lovely co-host, Jude Mayer.
Hello.
Knicks supporter extraordinaire and sometimes soccer watcher.
Rarely, on occasion.
Not anymore. Not anymore.
Yeah, it's feel like it's taken over my life, which I didn't anticipate because it's men's.
I don't understand the need. So now that I'm done with soccer, like we can officially stop caring about soccer for 4 years, right?
Well, no, I'm gonna care in 2027 when the women play because that's when we. But that's our better national team. So
they are so good though at this point that like, do you really care? Like, at what point does it become front running? Is what I'm saying about the women's supporting the women's team.
I think that there was a moment where that became true, but now I think a lot of other countries are starting to invest in their women's teams. So we're seeing more exciting matches and like more highly skilled other teams to compete with. So that's fun. I'm happy about that.
Yeah, I was talking about this with my wife, and she was saying that the reason that like we excelled at like women's soccer for so long was like Title IX and just like blowing all these other countries away. I did think about this is like, you know, there was this whole thing going around about like how good the men's team is versus the women's team and so on and so forth. And I was like thinking about it. It's like, is this a fair comparison if only because like the rest of the world doesn't let girls play soccer, right? Like, is it a stacked field, you know, like that the rest of the world's like so misogynistic that they're not allowing their kids to play soccer, so we're just kind of like, we've got that edge there.
There was a moment, but that we were definitely benefiting from that. But I also want to say, like, that wasn't on accident. That was like hard fought, hard won battles by like Julie
100%.
Foudy and the original like OGs of like women's soccer who were kicking ass to get to that point. Like it wasn't like America was uplifting female soccer players. They were just sort of also had to be there and then had to really fight to get any sort of recognition or compete in any real way. So I don't know. I definitely think that there was an inequity in like how women's soccer was treated around the world, and it was being uplifted in the US, but it wasn't just sort of on accident. It was after a long fight with Gloria Steinem and lots of, I mean, there are a ton of other people who were involved in that, and Billie Jean King like was really influential in the upcoming of that sport as well. There was some fabulous like phone call between her and Julie Foudy back in the day. Now that
By
I'm
the way,
saying
your
Gloria
sound
Steinem,
got like 10 times better when the microphone came over.
that tracks. Well, when I just sort of leave it off screen, it doesn't do much for me. But now that I said Gloria Steinem, I'm like backtracking in my head, thinking it wasn't her, but there were a lot of fabulous women in that movement. So I'd say yes, there's a higher emphasis, but now the rest of the world is catching up, and there's going to be a higher level of competition, which is fabulous because our girls can compete.
That's great. Today on the show, we're going to be talking about all things Graham Platner, which is a wild story out of Maine, an incredibly sad story, but one that is worth talking about this morning. Plus, we're going to talk about what's going on with Sony and their desire to make you rent all the things, you will own nothing, and you will be happy about it. And the last thing we're talking about is whether or not Mitch McConnell is still with us. Is he the Holy Ghost of the Senate at this point. Like maybe there is a situation where he is both. It's Schrodinger's. It's Schrodinger's ghost at this point.
Schrodinger's senator.
So Schrodinger's turtle. That's what it
Oh,
is. Poor guy.
tragic.
But if you are unaware, if you have been living under a rock, the current state of Maine's politics is a little effed. I don't know why I'm censoring myself. It's completely fucked up. So let's backtrack here for a second. Let's go back to the beginning with Graham Platner. Graham Platner ran as an insurgent candidate against what was the then desired pick by the SDCC, who was Janet Mills. Um, at that time, uh, he went through some amount of vetting, but clearly not a sufficient amount, and quickly rose to be a darling of the left. Uh, as more problems started to emerge with his uh, Yahtzee tattoo, to be very generous, his Totenkopf, the drama that surrounded that, followed by a litany of other issues, including Reddit posts that said awful things about women, minorities, um, just a laundry list of problems there, followed by this latest scandal. And the latest scandal emerged after a New York Times report came out that said, um, Graham Platner uh, had inappropriate conversations with women over text communication, followed thereby afterwards making claims of abuse in that story, followed by yesterday a bombshell Politico report that came out that said that Graham Platner had sexually assaulted a woman, that he was in what she describes as a situationship. Um, these are incredibly uh, tough charges. They are incredibly they are confirmed. I would say they are verifiable at this point. Um, that they are very serious in nature and credible. And that I think the most damning thing about it, that kind of came out of this, is the fact that the problems that were levied against the former charges are not visible here, i.e., that this person made after the before she had made these claims, before Graham Platner had rose to ascended to power, that they had made these claims and told other women about them.
Mhm.
So we're now at a crossroads, right? Graham Platner has made a statement at which he had categorically denied these allegations, as well as um, saying that he would be basically suspending his campaign. That there's just really no way around it at this point. So, I guess my first question to you, Jude, is what do you think the main focus point for Democrats should be coming out of this? Should it be introspection about the process? Do you think it should be about the candidate? Should it be about why we're picking unvetted candidates? What is your main takeaway from what you're seeing on the ground?
So I am a Cali girl, and I am getting major Eric Swalwell deja vu. And that's how I'm feeling right now, that the Democratic Party has failed twice in a relatively short span of time to properly vet a candidate who has credible sexual abuse charges against, not charges, allegations against them. Um, we saw that with Eric Swalwell. He was the front runner in the governor's race. He dropped out. We had a whole clusterfuck. This is going to give us a similar clusterfuck. I think that it's a the assumed uh capability and sort of benefit of the doubt that men who look like these men enjoy in our party needs to be examined, because I think that there's a little bit of song and dance about being the enlightened party versus when there's so much internalized misogyny, there's so much silencing of victims in some kind of, for the benefit of the greater good, for the, it's all because this guy has the right politics, so we want him in office, we want him to win. That's all fine and dandy, but the message that we send to every woman is in when we prioritize putting a man who is an abuser or predator in power, is that we're not actually interested in protecting women.
Yeah.
And I will say though, I read this, so I was reading this Politico article, actually laughed out loud at anything alleging that I knew what my tattoo was. These are statements that nobody, these are statements of somebody who's politically motivated. The idea that you got something permanently etched onto your skin and you're like, I didn't know what that was. Don't accuse me of knowing what that was. That's so funny. And I was like, a skull and crossbones. Okay, well, everybody, that's like a very normal tattoo. I went to look at it and I was like, Jesus Christ, that's
Yeah.
like the one. That's the one you don't get.
It's the one on the Nazi caps.
Yeah.
Like in the movies,
SS
in the
caps.
SS have that on the caps.
Yeah.
Look, let's go through this, because I think you make some really salient points about what the problem is here, right? And I have a great friend of mine who is talking to me about this. That the number one thing that he was saying is that a black candidate never would have made it past the Nazi tattoo, right? That his reflection was that the benefit of the doubt that is given
Yeah.
to rugged looking white dudes, right,
Mm-hmm.
is unparalleled, right?
Yeah.
That it is unmatched. And I think there's really something to that, because when you talk about the need, the desire of the left to find their Joe Rogan, we need to find the Joe Rogan of the left. We desperately need that,
Yeah.
the desire to find that sometimes trumps all other reason,
I
right?
completely agree. Yeah.
And I'm not saying that we don't need that, right? I genuinely think that having the Joe the plumber, right, type guy in the party, something analogous to Dan from Nebraska, or any number of these type guys,
Mm-hmm.
has value, right? If we want
Sure.
to win kind of all over the place, we should find these guys. The problem that I've seen is that kind of inherent with like tall white dudes who look like that, who are very kind of classically attractive in a rugged way, that 50% of the time you're going to get a sociopath, right? Like that I don't think that's an unfair statement. Like, it already, if you kind of go into the people that are like going out there looking for power in politics,
Sure.
right? The levels of psychopathy are already high, right? That the people that are in politics that want to be the person in front of the camera, let alone the people behind the camera, but the people that are in front, like I think that they are a little nuts. And sometimes that manifests in sometimes you get, a very excitable person. Sometimes you get a very angry person, right? You might get a person that is a little maladjusted or a perfectionist, like, I want to say a Katie Porter. You know what I mean? Like, you
Mm-hmm.
sometimes get some weird folks, right? because I think that going into politics is kind of inherently an unnatural thing, you know? It's kind of like
Right.
how you get into like you probably see this in the acting business. There's
Definitely.
some big egos, weird people. When you get the people, the dudes, right? The white, rugged 6'2" dudes that are going into this, I think they have an ego attached to them. You know what I mean?
Right.
That they can't ever do anything wrong and it's always going to kind of work out for them, you know?
Yeah, some failing upwards is allotted, and they yeah, I understand. There's an entitlement and a benefit of the doubt that comes with that appearance.
100%. And so like did did Platner, I guess this gets back to the whole Nazi tattoo. Did Platner know at the time that it was a Nazi tattoo? I don't think so. I don't think that he walked into uh this I don't remember. Nika can fact check us about where this was. A European country. He was overseas. He gets this Nazi tattoo. He walks into this parlor. He's with his buddies. He's like, blackout drunk. And I think genuinely that he picks a tattoo off the wall, skull and crossbones, dumb looking thing, and says, "That's badass looking. Give me that." Right?
Yeah.
Give me that on his chest. Followed by uh somewhere down the line, because if you're, a in the military, you have some sort of military knowledge, at least at a bare minimum, you watched all the fucking movies, right?
Right. Like I've seen Inglorious Bastards. Feel like people with one watch through of that could be like, "Oh, that's that skull and
Yeah.
crossbones."
And he was like playing dumb to a little certain extent, being like he was quoted by several people throughout his life about saying, "Oh, my totem cough." You know what I mean? Like, dude knew what it was.
Oh, I didn't know that part.
Oh, yeah. No, like, the dude knew what it was before he went on, at least before he went on Pod Save America, right? Because this all kind of broke because they dropped the story on Pod Save America that he's got this Nazi tattoo, right? This is where this kind of all broke. I guess either the Mills campaign or someone else had found out about this, and because he was in a video, I guess this came up in Abo research because he was in a video at his sister's wedding, shirtless, running around with
That I saw.
his
Yeah.
with his Totenkopf. By the way, his sister is Jewish. I I don't think that he is a Nazi or his I don't think that he is a Nazi. Let
No,
me
but if you
let me
get
start
a
there.
Nazi symbol tattooed on your chest, you're personally not invited to my Jewish wedding.
No, I don't I think he's just fucking dumb, right? Like, I think that he is a combination of dumb and spoiled, and when he learned that it was in fact a Nazi tattoo, that he's like, "Well, I didn't know at the time, so if
Yeah,
I
like
didn't
yeah.
know it at the time, then it can't be out of hate, so it's kind of ironic that I got it because I'm not a Nazi." And that kind of let him create the headspace in his mind that, "Oh, I'm not a Nazi, so I can do this," right? That I can keep it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, yes. That makes
It
sense.
it wasn't until way downstream that everybody's like, "Wait, you got a fucking Nazi tattoo?" He's like, I didn't know. I'll get it covered up. I'll get it covered up," right?
With what was that? That was the strangest tattoo I'd ever seen. It was like a wiener dog inside of like a sphere.
It
I
I
can't
have
tell what it is.
I have no fucking idea. It looks
Okay.
terrible. Like, it is just a fucking blob, you
It's
know what I
not a great
mean?
tattoo, which
It
is
no. It
better than a fucking
well, what's
better than a
wild,
Nazi tattoo, but Jesus Christ, by this much.
why wouldn't you fucking get the zap off? Like, they've
Just
got the
take it
zap
off.
off technology, you know what I
Zap it
mean?
off and then get something interesting or better or something. Get a fucking peace sign, weirdo. Like I can't get a Star of David right there is what I want from him.
Jesus Christ. I mean, I think that and this kind of the Nazi tattoo gets into the second, I think, problem with running against this guy, or at least the strategy that came about by National Dems, right? Which was calling him a Nazi, right? Because while someone would think, right, right away that there is a logical jump between the guy who got the Nazi tattoo and being a Nazi, uh, the mitigating circumstances, I think, gave them enough wiggle room that they could be like, "No, of course he's not a Nazi, and you're foolish for saying so." You know?
Mm,
The better line, I think, would have been at the time, and maybe this got brought up, but I don't think it was the focus, is he's a drunk, right? That
interesting.
he it just was getting blackout drunk. I think all of these things that he did, you can kinda date back to
Right,
his
right.
substantial alcohol abuse problem,
Yeah,
right?
that's what we hear in that woman in that this woman's testimony is that he was belligerently drunk, came into her home uninvited. There yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he's belligerently drunk, and this gets us into the thing. It's like he's belligerently drunk, he goes up, he, forces himself upon this woman, and then the next day, uh, claims that he didn't know, that he had no idea, you know?
Yeah, which is such a cop out. I will say there is absolutely blacking out is real and but it is so convenient to to black out during times that you fucking assault people. Like it does not absolve you of responsibility because you
No.
don't remember and it's just we saw we went through this with Kavanaugh. This doesn't it doesn't matter that you were drunk. It's irrelevant to the case. This you still did it. You're still you. It's your responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're absolutely right, and I think that with look, this isn't, as much like, it is a drinking problem. It's as much a drinking problem as a problem with drinking, is that this guy, just went out there and just consistently got shit-faced, right? He
Mm,
probably got drunk when he was writing his, Reddit scries, I don't know that to be true, but it's kind of consistent, you know what I
uh,
mean? He was drunk when he got the Nazi tattoo. He was drunk, when he did a host of these other situations. He was drunk when he was running around his sister's wedding shirtless, which brought up the whole thing. I think that the the main problem here, as much as everything else, is the fact that this guy had serious judgment issues,
sure.
that I think that there is some part of me that afterwards I was a Nazi tattoo apologist in a lot of ways, right?
Mhm.
In that I was in the military, right? I was a young man in the military when I was in. I was in from, I was in for 6 years. After
Everybody thank Jack for his service or I'll
no,
come get you.
please, no.
Just kidding.
Hung out in Germany, it's fine. But but the I understand, uh, what the experience is like of being a young, um, dude in the military in that sort of time frame,
Mm,
and I know how dumb those guys are, right? Take
sure.
the average bear, right? Dude in his 20s, right? And then fill his life with nothing but other dudes in their 20s, you know what I mean? And late teens, and see what happens.
Mhm.
Terrible influences on
Yeah.
each other, you know?
Okay. Sure.
So I was willing to look at the tattoo and be like, "Oh, the guy's just a fucking idiot," right? That
Right.
a and I was willing, once again, afterwards, to look at the Reddit posts and say, "This is the actions of a young dude who doesn't really know enough about the world and that he's clearly learning in real time, you know?
Mhm.
That I didn't need at the time for perfection, right? That I didn't need a purely, sterile, uh, you know, background for this guy to have lived, right?
Mhm.
That he could have been messy. And I said this immediately following the sexting scandal, right? Even then, I was sitting there going, okay, well, he went into therapy, apologized to his wife. Like marital relations are their own thing,
Right, right, right.
like it's just a bad situation. And then I even then was sitting there going like, oh, well, I think I've come this far, right? And he's the candidate.
Well, it's the sunk cost principle. It's
It
you
is.
spent your time and energy believing or wanting this person to do to get this seat, to get this job, to win this election. There is so much we have a lot more tolerance for men somehow with Nazi tattoos and sexual assault allegations than we do for like when you're saying like Katie Porter. I think she's guilty of being a perfectionist with a kind of with a mildly hot temper for someone in a high pressure job.
Yeah.
And that's what that and she's incredibly educated and her policies rock. And that's like these are the things, these are the trade-offs. We
Yeah.
first these those are not those are deal breakers for a woman in office. But what isn't a deal breaker for a man in office is unpredictable behavior, being a routine drunkenness, mistakes that are decently sized mistakes on his chest. Like it's there are so many, and
Klobuchar
it's not
threw a
even.
fork, right? Like
Did she?
that was her big crime. That was
I think
her
so.
big like
Yes,
thing
I
is she
remember
threw a
this.
fucking salad fork at somebody
Yeah,
and that was the problem. That was
yeah.
a problem, you
And I
know?
and like there are things I'm like, if that's a problem, that can be a problem, but that has to be the threshold for problem for all. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I don't want to hear then about forgiving people for sexual misconduct. And I think it's not a it's like I'm not condemning people who supported him as much as I am the whole system of internalized misogyny that is rampant in the Democratic Party that we don't want to deal with. We don't we There is a bit of pretending it's not there and sort of making nice because it isn't as bad as the overt misogyny going on in the other party, but it's insidious and
Yeah.
contagious and it spreads like wildfire through our demographic, and it still allows the same ideas to take root about what is acceptable for women and what is acceptable for men, and when women are just being too loud and too much and when boys are just being boys.
Yeah.
And there can't be there can't be like a, oh well, it's chill because he was drunk. We
Yeah.
because it's chill because she was drunk would never ever 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 make it past a primary.
No, no, it wouldn't. And I think that the questions of judgment, right,
Mhm.
are I think you're absolutely right. I think the questions of judgment or questionable judgment um kind of got highlighted here in the biggest way. And I guess that's the thing is like people going into this every step though. I think this is now a Rorschach test, right,
Mhm.
for the Democratic Party. If you're looking at the Platner situation and you're a centrist, right? If you're part of the centrist coalition of the Democratic Party, you're looking at the Platner situation saying, "Oh, these fucking liberals saddled us with this guy," right? The
Mhm.
leftists, I should say leftists, the leftists saddled us with this guy, right? And if you're a leftist, and I think everybody kind of baseline believes that his behavior is bullshit, right? There's very fringy elements on the internet that are like, it was unverifiable, so on and so forth, right?
Yeah.
But I think everybody kind of baseline, at least the mainstream, all are going, yeah, this is bullshit, right? This
Yeah.
is bad. this is bad. He should step down.
Mhm.
There's no prominent Democrats that are coming out there.
And defending, you're right. Yeah.
Right. There's nobody jumping in front of the bullet. I saw the only person that jumped in front of the bullet for Graham Platner yesterday was Marjorie Taylor Greene. Did you see
Did
this?
she?
She
No,
did.
I didn't. What did she say?
Oh, Nika can pull up the quote. But she said something to the extent of like, Platner didn't do anything wrong, in so much as like, these are unverifiable, claims. Women be saying shit, I guess. What was funny about this awful fucking quote that she made, uh, is
Oh,
it was
I
a
found it. Do you want it?
yeah. Read us the quote.
Oy. If you are raped or sexually assaulted, report it immediately. Don't wait until years later until the man runs for office to go to news outlets to tell your story, Green wrote hours after the report was published. And if you had consensual sex with him years ago, don't turn it into rape for politics with conflicting stories. Oh, what a nightmare that woman is.
Yeah. Well,
Ah,
the if you want nightmare on nightmare, as far as she's concerned, is that she then turned around and made it a Poly Market ad, right?
what?
Yes,
What?
that quote is a Poly Market ad. That is an ad for Poly Market. Is a sponsored post
Oh
that
my
she did,
God.
which is wild,
Do we
right?
have like codes of ethics anymore or
No,
no? Okay.
no, everything is fine. I mean,
Just checking.
she is not a sitting congressperson anymore.
I guess she's a private citizen
she's
now.
just a lady. She's a lady
Okay.
out
All
there
right.
that wants those Poly Market bucks.
So then do we have decency? No, I'm just kidding.
No, no. Well, I mean, I said this on online this morning. Like, attention is a currency,
Right.
and shame doesn't exist, right? So when it comes to the next steps for Platner, right? That Platner, by the way, can you hear my dog barking in the background? I know you should step in next time and be like, please.
Well, it used to be quieter and then it stopped for a while and then it got
I
louder
know
and
she
started
is
again.
losing her mind. Wax intellectual about this stuff, and I'll be right back. I'm gonna find
Okay,
out what
sounds
her
good.
problem is.
Okay. Um, so Jack's dogs are really cute and he should bring them on screen and they should be the next guest. I'd rather host I think it would be fun to host alongside his lovely little puppies. He said to talk intellectually, but that's not really what I'm doing, I guess. Um, what were we were talking about? I think that I will say like there's a lot of people calling her allegations false information or whatever they want to say about them because they don't want to believe them. There are contemporary texts to her friends, her therapists, um, and also her partner confirms that she told him years later about that, like prior to recently, prior to this coming up recently, she told him about that experience. She so I there are like like contemporaneous memos that confirm her story. Also, there is a real thing that she talked about like, well, he's a Democrat and I like his policies. I want him to win. Like I want him to win on his ideas. Not I want him to win. I want his ideas to win. And that I think that's very welcome back, Jack.
There
I was
was a
saying how
squirrel.
it would be fun. Oh, really?
Yeah.
I was saying I want your dogs on the cast. Um
I would love to. I thought about putting, once we're better at this and could put up like a sub screen, like we can do dog cam.
oh yeah. I was just saying that there are a lot of people are calling her allegations false, Marjorie Taylor Greene included, and there are contemporaneous messages to her therapist, to her friends, and also a discussion she had with her partner that happened prior that was like her story corroborating her story,
Yeah.
and she had real reservations because she likes his ideas. She like he is the politics that she agrees with, he represents. So she didn't know what the right thing to do was. And people talk about, why didn't they come forward now? Why didn't they come forward? Whatever. Yeah, the people that are like slaughtering her reputation and she was like, I don't want to be known as a rape victim. And I
Yeah.
totally understand that. That's so specific and re-traumatizing forever that if that's, the first and last line of your obituary is the woman who was assaulted by Graham Platner, like that's nobody wants that. So I don't know. There were a lot of reasons that I really appreciated her enumerating in the article, in the report, like that were why I didn't come forward. before because people are accusing her of doing it for political gain, and people are accusing the other woman who Lindsay, I can't remember her last name,
Yeah.
of doing it for because she's a Republican and trying to like smear him. And here's the thing, we don't get to pick and choose. If you're on the left, you don't like to in my heart, you don't get to pick and choose who you believe if they have sufficient evidence to be making these claims. Like there are
Yeah.
absolutely times when it's like when there are either obviously false accusations made by men and women about many different crimes. Like there's a lot of name calling and accusations thrown around, not about sexual assault, but about every other crime. We see Trump every day, so you're talking about the Biden crime family and what Hunter Biden did and whatever. So there is a lot of that going on, but I think to dismiss credible allegations because they come from a Republican is just a total is the antithesis of the ideals that we should be moving towards.
Yeah. And I'm not
I should
saying
say
that
antithetical to those ideas.
I'm not saying that there aren't bad faith actors out there that exist, right?
Right.
There also, I think with this particular case, and I think almost everybody would agree at this point, it is the preponderance of the evidence, like, points to that he did this shit, right?
Yeah.
And so this is where now we're kind of a where do we go from here situation because we've got a situation now with Graham Platner. He's going presumably going to drop out. I read this thing this morning that I was verified by one source. I'm not sure how many after this, that his team, what's left over it is of it was trying to negotiate this dude stepping down. That Platner stepping down was a negotiation at this point. That they were going to try to get somebody consistent with Platner's ideals into the seat, right?
Hmm.
And that the question, maybe I won't step down if I don't get that, which is fucking nutty, right?
Yeah.
Like, you don't get the option at that point
Not your
to
call anymore.
yeah,
Mm-mm.
you don't get the option at that point to pick and choose how you go out, right?
No, you
Or
just have to
who
get out
comes
of the
next.
way.
Right. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying that getting a Janet Mills type person in there is going to be a good thing. Janet Mills has a whole host of issues, right?
Hmm.
That the main voters clearly rejected, right?
Yeah.
Overwhelmingly, they rejected, and even doubly so because they voted for the guy who was awful, right? And that I think everybody kind of knew at baseline was messy, right?
Hmm.
Like for a lot of people, I would imagine that everybody had a reason internally that they were going, I don't know about this Graham Plattner dude. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But people were so frustrated with the state of the Democratic Party, right? That they turned to a guy they truly didn't either vibe with or understand, right?
Hmm.
That and I think that this comes back to where we are nationally with the Democratic Party kind of losing its mind collectively, at least the centrists in the party, about the ascension of the more socialist minded individuals, right? The leftist individuals that they perceive this as such a threat, that they will do anything in their power to sideline what might be just a lefty dude, right? That wouldn't be a Platner, you know?
Hmm. Hmm.
Like, for example, before this was kind of spiraled out of control, they cleared the field for Janet Mills, right?
Hmm.
They cleared the field for Janet Mills to roll through and win this nomination, and the only one left standing because they cleared the field was Platner, right? Like
Right.
they threw their weight on the scale, and this was the choice that people had at that point, and they made their choice. So, do you think that they're gonna learn a lesson here? Like, do you think it's possible that they walk away and go, "Oh, maybe we pushed the left too hard. Maybe there should be room that we're not going to instantaneously try to like bulldoze the left and instead kind of get uh allow a free expression of ideas without like getting to the point where uh they they feel the need the left feels the need to put up a candidate like a Platner because it's the one chance they get. You know what I'm asking?
Yeah, and tell me if I don't. Tell me if I answer it incorrectly. But I'm hoping that they don't learn that leftist candidates are the problem. I'm hoping that they learn that this is the problem is when you don't vet somebody and they have a horrible record that was easily accessible. Like
Yeah,
that to me, Eric Swalwell was the same. You had like you could just there were so many red flags with him dating back a long time ago that it was like somebody called it just an unspoken known thing in California politics that he was kind of a sleazebag. Um, which it's just like if you just ignore the red flags, you're going to prove your own theory that you can't get these people elected.
yeah,
That's not the problem. I also sort of resent the idea that the Democratic Party wants to pick one way to go. Where there's 50 states and there's an innumerable amount of elections within those states, and they all require actually listening to the demographic that lives there about what they want. It
yeah,
can't just be this square peg fits into every round triangular rectangular hole. Like that's not it's not going to be a one size fits all solution. It's going to be listening to what those people in that electorate want and then running somebody who inspires them, who also, and we see this with Mamdani. He swept and he did a phenomenal job in his campaign
yeah,
because he was making promises that number one, that he could keep, that he could make good on, and also making promises that were inspiring to the people in his electorate and his constituents wanted those things. And I feel like when we just keep trying to do the same, like, what if we get this ultra rugged white guy who's like also kind of spicy leftist politics? That's a lot more. We're seeing a lot of the time that those people are sometimes not all that they say they are, as far as being without prejudice and without
yeah,
bias. Um, but I also think that they're not suited for for every place, for every election. I wish that there was more attention being paid to the tons and tons of different movements that are coming out of this moment in the Democratic Party, and they're happening just in all different spots. There's so many different types of people I think that could get elected, and I don't know why we keep trying to run the same guy.
yeah. No, I think that you're right. I think that part of the problem is, and part of the problem that the Democrats have is they're so used to running that same dude, right?
Mhm.
And not to be, not to call him out, but like a Connor Lamb, right?
Okay.
Connor Lamb, straight and narrow dude, right? Very competent, you know what I mean? Very competent dude.
Mhm.
Uh and also a little right, well, at the time was thought to be a little right of center, maybe of center dem, I should say. And who ran against him was John Fetterman, right? And the desire at the time, what's funny is you see a very similar path between what happened with Fetterman and what happened with Platner, right? In the Fetterman case, you had a situation where years ago, when he was mayor of Braddock, Pennsylvania, he pulls on a young black man who was out. And there was what at the time was said a lot of mitigating circumstances around you didn't know who he was, X, Y, and Z. Clearly a racist act, right? Um, and the problem is that he was never really held to account by both the political establishment in Pennsylvania, and there wasn't an outright right rejection from the left, right?
Mhm.
Because he looked like John Fetterman did, right? He was a personality more than anything else, right? He was
Mhm.
a cult of personality. And I think we see this with cult of personality people, right?
Mhm.
That they get away with a lot more, right? And they gain a following a lot more. And so there's a big debate after the fact, years later, with his hard swing to MAGA about how much responsibility lies with the leftists that kind of put Fetterman where he was. Was he that impact? Was the progressive left really that impactful? Should the centrists have run a more interesting candidate, instead
Right.
of a more milquetoast boring candidate? And I'm not saying that like Connor Lamb is a bad dude. I think that he is a good dude. I've sat and talked with him. He was very kind to me when I started doing Veterans for Casey. I went in and chatted with him, had a long conversation about politics, and how we could best mobilize veterans. Very smart dude,
Cool.
very well respected by the establishment Dems. Got every single nomination there was, or every single endorsement there was, and still went out there and lost, right,
Mhm.
against Fetterman. So I think that the problem is there is a yearning for something different there. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And so maybe there has to be an effort, at least at a baseline level, of the Democratic establishment to go out and find that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Find the interesting guy. And I'm not saying it's easy, right?
Oh,
You don't need to find a Platner every time because we know how that breaks down, but also running more diverse candidates, right?
yeah,
Uh
younger candidates as well.
Younger, different backgrounds, different, it doesn't always have to be, oh, I graduated from GW with a political science degree and then go work at a hedge fund, and then,
Sure.
went to K Street and did X, Y, and Z. Like, there needs to be a diversity of background. Clearly, there is a need here, and it's being expressed poorly.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
so, anyway, speaking of being dead, if Platner's campaign is dead, is Mitch McConnell dead?
Okay. No, I don't think so. But
Is he
this is,
alive?
and that is where it gets tricky. uh, this is his third week in the hospital right now. Um, yeah, coming into his third week. There have been no reports, not a lot of information made publicly available. This comes on the heels of two major falls in 2019 and then 2023 when he was hospitalized twice for fractures, a concussion. He's had a lot of health issues. We've seen him freeze and things like that.
Yeah.
And really, what I want this conversation to be about, because I can't like uh, making fun of people who are in dire straits is tough for me. But what I would love for this to turn into a conversation about in the public sphere is, should there not be a fucking retirement age for
Yes.
serving in public office? Whether it's a term limit. He's Mitch McConnell's the longest serving. I think he's the longest serving head of like leader of the Senate minority and majority when they've been in. I think it was from 2007 until 2023 that he was serving. He also started serving in the Senate under Reagan in 1984. I just like that's his political career has been longer than my entire lifetime.
Oh,
And
yeah, by a lot, I
by
would
a
imagine.
by almost 20 years.
Twice? There you go. You're
Almost. That's close.
almost, almost.
But yeah, I guess I'm yeah, 2002. So in 1984, that's a long time.
That's
Um,
a long time.
so I just think that this needs to turn into a conversation about like you don't get to order for the table before you leave the restaurant. You just
Yeah,
don't. And I I have some real problems, especially with people who are not being affected by the job market crisis in the same way, who are not going to be affected by AI. I want exclusively people who have toddlers right now to be dealing with climate change because they have the biggest stake in it. Like they're just people who are not going to live to see the consequences of their decisions, and I don't know whether that's 65, whether that's 70, judges too. Oh my God. Like
yeah,
there's so many people that I just think we have an age limit to start, and now life is a lot longer. And we need it. We need a cap because people who don't have the mental physical capacity, the facilities to be in that job are in that job making decisions that are going to have effects for the rest of my life.
yeah. No, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I have been a proponent of adding an retirement age to federal service.
Mhm.
What's funny about it is we actually have uh a retirement age in the military, right? If you are a general in the military, if you advance up the ranks, if you put in your 38, 35, 38, 40 years of service, uh, if you are a flag officer, you are able, a general above, you are able to continue your service up to like 64, right?
Hmm.
That's it.
Wow.
After that, you need permission from the president of the United States to
Hmm.
continue to serve in your post,
Wow. I
right?
did not know that.
So, and being a general in the military, I don't think is far off from being head of a federal agency,
Right.
head of a legislature, head of a
Hmm.
state. Like you would never go. No company in their right mind would go out and hire an 87-year-old person to
Yeah.
be the CEO of their company,
And for
right?
reference, Mitch McConnell is 84 this
Yeah.
year.
So there is no other this I think this speaks to the problem of entrenched power in
Hmm.
the Senate and the
Yeah.
Congress and in state houses, in politics in general. This is what happens with entrenched power and entrenched money, right?
Hmm.
That when you have the backings of the corporations, the groups, to some degree, to a lesser extent, the last couple of years, the unions, to all of the trade organizations, X, Y, and Z, you get a level of power that is very difficult to surpass. And the rates of turnover of of congressmen is something in the high 90s, right?
Hmm.
That if you are elected to Congress, you are like 98%, 96% going to stay there until you leave, right?
Hmm.
Every time, and this is twofold. One, because running campaigns is extremely expensive,
Yeah.
you've got all the money. So what bounces up against the money? I see this as a very flat plane. It's not even rock, paper, scissors at this point. It's just rock, and paper. Uh, and if you've got the paper, right, you're just gonna, that's it.
Yeah.
But the only scissors that are out there if I can really fucking stretch this analogy to the worst possible level, is charisma, right?
Right. Sure.
Charisma is the only thing that cuts through the paper, you know?
Yeah, like inspiration. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. I think that it's the only thing that can kind of surpass because then people are searching you out, right? They're
Yeah.
not any amount of messaging that is being delivered by paid means, right?
Mhm.
Can be broken by people wanting to know more about you and going out there and finding and watching your shit. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I yeah, I completely agree. It's just so they're the institutionalized advantage that incumbents have is unmatched and really hard to fight against.
Oh,
And
100%.
especially both parties want to keep the seats they have. So they're not like they don't make it a priority to search for someone fabulous when we have somebody who's already there.
Why would they?
And yeah, and because it takes money, it takes time, it takes energy, and for
Well,
me,
no, I'll push back there. I'll push back there because building the bench, right, would be very easy. Building the takeover plan, like there are a million competent, well, abilitied people in DC that could take over for the current congresswoman who is something in her late 80s, right? Uh that there when Ruth Bader Ginsburg, all right, died on her seat, right? There were hundreds of federal judges that when Obama had the supermajority could have
sure.
switched them over, right? I think that the problem, like, it's not that they don't want to do it because it would be work. They don't wanna do it because they like being a congressman, right?
Oh,
They
I'm not
like
talking about the individual. I'm talking about like the DNC, who I
I
want to be putting in more work. Because the Congress, of course, they're going to want to stay in power. But I'm saying like what I wish that the DNC didn't put their energy into squashing primary challengers to incumbents because that to me is the that's like the infection that's growing here. It's like we're seeing the DNC back incumbents so hard and also who already have the resources to reach their voters in a different way because they have the platform. They're not allowing there to be a free and open forum for ideas because of this. They're like, well, we're not going to put energy into this if that guy's going to get reelected for us really easy, even if that person is 80 something.
well, I'll push back against that.
Okay.
The DNC is broke, right? They are
Yes.
poor.
Yeah.
They couldn't do that even if they wanted to, and at this point, why would they? Right? There's no
At this point in
desire.
time,
Yeah,
sure.
I guess that's the thing is like the DNC chair. I think that there's kind of a myth that the DNC is more powerful than it is, right? That it holds more sway, that it is more abled to do the things that they do. Whereas I think that there's a level, there's actually been a fair amount of incompetence there.
I agree
Um,
with that.
that a much larger um entrenched power base is the donor class, right?
Sure.
The donor class and the consultant class that gets money from the donors, right? They want to run a campaign, they have to have established relationships with donors. They go out to the donors and they say, "Hey, we're going to run this person X, Y, and Z." And so all the money kind of funnels into one person, right? And everybody in that ecosystem is happy, right? The donor class gets their money from or excuse me, the donor class benefits by having the same person that isn't going to change anything, right?
Sure.
That isn't going to upset the apple cart. The consulting class is happy because the donor class is giving them lots of money to run stupid fucking TV ads that nobody ever wants to watch, right? And the elected class is happy because they're getting elected and they get to be a congressman and walk around and do nothing,
Right.
you know?
Mhm.
And that ecosystem just continues to feed itself. And and the elect like the myth here is that the various like the DNC, I think, has a much lesser like hand in that ecosystem versus something like maybe, the SDCC or the D trip or any of the innumerable number of groups that are out there that hold just a ton of power when it comes to the various super PACs. Like their relationships are so much more powerful than kind of the like these super delegates. You know what I
Then
mean?
I think that then I would agree. I agree with you there, and I think that that is what I said earlier is also true of the DCCC, that they do
Oh,
abandon
sure.
races, that they are like, well, this isn't going to work, even if there is a possibility. I used to do research and data analysis for a nonprofit, actually a fabulous nonprofit. I was their research and data analysis intern, and they're the next 50, and it was all about finding those candidates who were being looked over in places where the races were really tight. And I would just comb through election data from the New York Times and go, okay, where was a race between, like where did somebody lose by less than 0.4% or
Yeah.
4% or whatever it was years ago now. And it was what was so frustrating was to watch races get close and then to watch the money leave
Yeah.
because there was no they just decided that, oh, our statisticians said this probably isn't going to happen, this probably isn't going to work, and then that person would just get the rug pulled out from under them. And there weren't that to me feels so frustrating because there were people running really good campaigns that were making headway, and because it was X amount of unlikely, they would get abandoned. And that is a frustrating trend because how are you ever going to make headway in those places if you continue to have think like that?
Yeah. Well, I think that's what the DSA has done exceptionally well
I
is
agree.
picking and choosing their races where they will even run anyone, right?
Hmm.
And kind of nipping at the heels of organizing. I mean, we had in Philly Chris Rabb, who was largely the underdog for the entire, campaign, who ran away with the whole thing, right? And it
Hmm.
was boots on the ground organizing that got him over that edge. Now, like he has the more right opinions about stuff, and was able to speak to a very angry, quite frankly, or at least dissatisfied voter base, who saw kind of like the politics as usual no longer being appropriate, you know? And so when he's able to do that, right, they've got to either bring these people in or be more flexible. Every time because it's good for the party, somebody like a Chris Rabb or a Mandami or any number of these left of center progressive candidates is good for the party. It refreshes the party, right?
Hmm.
It brings in young blood.
Yeah.
It gets people excited
Hmm.
about being a Democrat again. Um, and so when you have these people getting immediately ostracized because they aren't lockstep in line with what, a game plan that fucking Harry Reid laid out 25 years ago, then I think that people they're so resistant to change. We can't
Sure.
have rule by octogenarian anymore.
No. And whether that means a retirement age or like proper term limits, like how long you can serve. Because I understand that there are issues that seniors need to be involved in, like there are issues that affect them greatly, and I agree and get that. So if that's the case, that's fine. But then there's got to be a front end and back end. This is how long you can do this job,
Yeah.
and then either run for another one or go or do something else because it can't be you can't be making laws for 20-year-olds when you're 80.
Well, I thought what would be actually valuable would be them serving in a capacity that is mentorship, That's the
Right.
one thing that is
Absolutely.
lost, right? Like,
Yes.
where are big training institutes for young, left of center people coming up
Totally agree.
that are
Absolutely.
run by the organizations themselves? There's Run for Something. There's lots of organizations out there that do that, but
Yeah.
where is the institutional stuff, and where are the old heads coming in and mentoring some of the young folks that are coming in that maybe have the wrong opinions about some stuff?
Yeah.
Maybe they should kind of catch up with the old head. Maybe they could be educated by the old heads, and maybe the old heads can be educated by them. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like,
Yes.
there could be a better way of doing this, but instead we've just decided that the only way to do this is forward.
Yeah.
The only way to do this is having the old eat the young and vice versa. You
Yeah.
know,
So it is 10:10
you've got to
and
go.
I have to go, but I would love to do some super quick administration failures of the week that made me laugh.
Great. Tell me.
Okay. So first off, we have Mamdani issuing a statement saying, everybody keep your thermostats at 78 or above, whatever, however high is comfortable. Lindsey Graham got on his back. Ted Cruz got on his back saying he was a communist and that this was a third world country now because you couldn't use your air conditioning. And when lots of people pointed out, hey, that was actually the suggestion of the Department of Energy, of Trump's Department of Energy, that entire page was removed from their website. And now when you go to that site to look up to get suggestions for how to deal with heat waves and strains on the grid, there's nothing. You can't find anything.
404 not found.
Indeed.
Yeah.
That's one. Trump had, I think he got his Guinness Book of World Records for the largest firework display over the weekend for 4th of July, something like 850,000 fireworks,
You couldn't
beating,
see them.
no, couldn't see them,
Not
beating
to
the
bury the
last.
lead here, but you couldn't see the fucking thing. I watched the video. It was just a fart, like a giant, like, cloud
Well,
of fart,
because
that
it was
was
too
drifting
smoky,
over. Yeah.
which is because it was too smoky, which caused major health warnings in the DC area because there was a code red air quality alert telling people that there were health risks and to stay inside until further notice. So of course, just a classic, he does not think about anybody other than himself. I think he got the record by something like 40,000 fireworks also, which I'm like,
Right.
you could have cut that down. Um,
Congrats.
yeah.
Congrats to
So
Donald Trump.
congrats to Donald Trump, and my apologies to people who live in DC. That air quality is real rough right now.
Oh, they were fishing all sorts of garbage out of the reflecting pool, apparently, that because of the fireworks, but,
Oh my god.
yeah, it
I
was real
that,
gross.
so, and then the third and final would be this. I seriously apologize to all of the Team USA fans. That was we played our last game in the World Cup last night. Unfortunately, lost 4-1. Um, and the last game, one of our players, and I'm not going to attempt his name because I get it wrong every time because I always
Okay.
am thinking of Bellingham from England, but it's a
Yes.
different B name.
I am
Um,
positive that I have also been saying it wrong, but I've been trying. I've been trying my best.
So one of our players was given a red card, and that's I don't know. I think this is specific to FIFA. Is that a red card in the World Cup includes a one game suspension
Yes.
always? I think that that's true consistently across the board. Um, so he got a red card and was suspended for the next game. And whether this is true or not, Trump claimed this that he had gotten in contact with somebody at FIFA to take another look at the red card, and so they did that, and whether that was due to Trump calling them or not, uh, because if you look at the play, if you watch the play, it was a bad call. It
It's
was
a bad
actually
call.
not a red card. So, but what he did is he got his Trump stank all over it, and now the last game that the U.S. men's team played was in this kind of shadow of this of Trump trying to interfere, and they lost, and the curse continues. He came to Super Bowl 59, Chiefs lost. He came to Game 3, Knicks lost, and now he interfered, and the U.S. men's team is out of the World Cup.
Look, I think that he is incapable of bringing joy to anyone that he surrounds. It's just a cloud of stank that he walks around. It's just failure, right? He breeds failure. But let's just go back here for a second, right? just to back here
Mhm.
for a second. Uh, Maybe the men's team wasn't up to the challenge and we all drunk the Kool-Aid a little bit on
Yes.
how good these guys actually were.
They
Because
were not gonna be as yeah.
no one expected these guys to go all the way and beat France. Like they just
No.
I don't follow soccer. I don't care. Like I care about soccer every 4 years. Other than like my kids play soccer, I guess I care about that.
I guess.
Yeah, it's children's soccer. It's not you know what? I wish more parents were less caring about their kids, sports.
Yeah,
Let them go out
totally.
there and have fun, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, I'm gonna provide you with the tools that you need, but, like, don't get too invested in your kid's soccer game, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Maybe
Yeah.
maybe just don't care that much. I don't know,
Yeah.
hot take. Uh, but some people really care. I did notice that people there was kind of a like understanding that like, oh, no matter how far we go, that's great, you know?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And we
That's how
went
I felt
pretty
about it.
far.
We
So
did
like,
good, we got yeah, I felt good about how we did. It felt sad that it had a stain on it now, because I actually think I mean, if I had to put money on the game, I would have placed my bet on Belgium,
oh
but
yeah,
Belgium was actually not an unbeatable team for us. Like, there were people who were like, "This is conceivable like, we could conceivably do this, or it could conceivably go into penalties." Like, there
yeah,
were people that were not like, oh, the US could never beat Belgium, which is, that's like how a lot of other teams I would say like, okay.
yeah.
But it was not
The only
it
one
wouldn't
that
have been
bummed me
unheard
out
of.
me out this season was Cape Verde losing.
I know, me too.
They were
That was
so
sad.
close. They were on the
Uh,
bubble.
that
I
guy,
was rooting for
the
them.
40-year-old goalkeeper who went from having 50,000 followers to having 14 million overnight because
I
after that
know.
win, that it just made my heart happy. Like, that was such a good story. That was a classic like sports story. You know what I mean?
The best tweet that I saw about that was, it's like we're watching, a 30 for 30 being made at the factory, you know?
That's awesome. That's
It's
really great.
farm to table 30 for 30. You're getting it live, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and 40 years old, so ancient 40. Oh, decrepit. Who wants to watch somebody that's 40? Disgusting. Ugh. Get 'em
All of
outta
our
here.
lovely viewers.
Rotted. Ugh, just peeling away. The life draining from them. Actually, funny story, Jamie Moyer, who, some of the Philadelphia audience might know, used to play for the Philadelphia Phillies. He actually, at one point, played against the oldest other pitcher. He was like 42 when he retired. When he played against the other pitcher that was in his 40s, it was the oldest starting pitcher combination of all time.
No way.
Jamie Moyer pitched to something like 16% of all players that had ever played baseball. In the
That's
history
crazy.
of baseball, this guy pitched to when he retired, 16% of them.
Wow. That's
Incredible.
I
So I
love
kind
that
of
stat.
like an old guy in
Oh, yeah.
sports thing until they fuck up, and then you're like, "Jesus Christ, retire."
Retire. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's really you can't win.
Well, I
Um,
mean, what's her face from soccer last year, from US women's soccer.
Rapinoe?
I
No.
wasn't she very, aged in the pantheon of, like, soccer players? I feel
I'd
like
have
she
to look
caught
into that. I
some
genuinely
grief.
don't know enough about soccer to know when they age out of playing.
Yeah, maybe
I
it
don't
was
know what the time is.
oh, you know what? Maybe it was the women's basketball team, the US women's basketball
There
team
was one, yeah.
I remembered seeing that there was a scandal of, like, an older player who had kind of taken the spot of a younger player, but I don't know any of the dynamics there. I have no idea. I'm not fucking basketball or soccer expert. So, uh, regardless, hey, Dream Mayor, where can we find you on the
Now I'm like
internet?
now I'm like looking into the how old people are
You
usually
can't
when they
fact check this shit on live. You gotta lean in, you
Oh,
know?
I'm don't
Just
worry, I'm
say
leaning.
stuff, you know?
Oh, good.
That's how you
I
get
don't
into
know.
trouble.
I don't know enough about when it's appropriate to retire from soccer to go into that. But I mean, I don't know when Rapinoe retired. She's 41 now. I don't know when she is. I don't, she's
I'm
now I'm
pretty
thinking.
sure she's done. I
I
don't know.
think she is. She
I
is.
don't know.
No,
I will care
I'm
about
such a
soccer
bad sports fan.
next year.
Exactly. I'm such a bad fan. The team. I don't know. My friends can tell me things about the players, and I'm like, that's awesome. That's cool. I'll watch the TV. Um, but you can find me at Hey Jude Mayer on Instagram, TikTok, and my 5 threads, my 5 whole threads. 2 of them are funny. And I talk about politics. I talk about current events, and that's what I do. And I also do this with Jack, which is a pleasure. So you can
It
find
is
me there and
always
here every Tuesday.
it is always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for coming. Go to your
Always.
appointment,
I shall.
or I don't know if it's an appointment. I don't know what you have going on. Don't know where you're going, but you know what? That's the mystery of life.
Yeah,
Go.
I'll go.
Be a person somewhere else while I continue to answer emails.
Lovely.
Goodbye,
Excellent.
Jude.
Goodbye.
Uh, emails. You can send in your emails to jack at fubarpack.org. And if I like them, I will answer them if they are interesting. Or maybe not. Maybe they don't need to be interesting. Maybe they just need to be in the email format. I'm going to bring up my list of emails here. Let's see here. Let's see here where I know this is riveting stuff. Um, I don't know where that list is. There we go. Okay. Here we go. Okay. If you would like to send an email in, send it to jack at fubarpack.org. First email comes in from Corp NYC. And I'm going to say that he is from the borough of Brooklyn. He says, immigration reform that works for Dems and Republicans, question mark. This is an interesting one because we had on the table before Donald Trump a level of comprehensive immigration reform that was actually uh, going to put together a lot of fixes for the current system that we have, right? I'm not going to go through all of them. You can go read a number of New York Times articles about what was contained in that bill and what actually would have come out of it and how good it would have been for the country. Um, the problem was at the time that Republicans didn't want immigration reform, not that because it was a bipartisan immigration bill, not that they didn't want the things in the bill, right? They wanted to run on the failure of immigration, right? Donald Trump wanted to run on the idea that immigration cannot be fixed without Stephen Miller level tactics, without going and putting people in vans and driving them around collecting immigrants off the street. That was the plan. That is the vision of Donald Trump, right? Is to create a situation that is so heinous and reprehensible and difficult for the individual and frightening that it will scare people into self deportation. That there is not a there's not a willingness to create actual long-term change, right? Because you could do this. You could actually go out if you wanted, and this is the problem that with employee verification checks, that for many years were not being checked up on properly because businesses would then need to be held accountable uh, for folks that didn't have not let alone proper documentation, but even we see problems with, say, slaughterhouses, right? That were not up to code, creating dangerous environments for people to be in, right? And then using labor that was untracked at any level to do this dangerous work, and then making their environment unsafe in the process, and using, in some cases, underage labor, right? It's not just limited to folks that are undocumented, it's underage workers. And the people that stand to benefit from this are the corporations that do it in mass. And this is well documented. So when you see the level of anguish that Republicans like to reap on undocumented people, to take away their kids, throw them in detention camps, so on and so forth. They're not, they're addressing the problem in the most racist and radical and, quite frankly, inefficient way possible. They're not doing this in good faith because it serves them twice, right? It serves them twice. The people that profit get to continue to profit off of it. The immigrant communities that are terrorized, some of which will then go and self-deport, but a lot of them won't. It is then used as a cudgel to beat the left. It is multifaceted. They don't want to fix the problem, right? And you see this at the end of the day with how ICE ended up breaking down, because you had a lot of undocumented labor that was necessary for the economy, that Trump all of a sudden said, "Oh, I can't go to my restaurant. I can't go to my favorite restaurant because it's closed because they don't have the labor. I can't do X, Y, and Z," and then started pulling back on ICE, right? People started complaining when it affected them, which is horrible. Like, if make things, I think we need comprehensive reform when it comes to immigration, obviously. But the one thing that we can do right now is going out and making sure that the people that are here, that their lives are not demonstrably worse. These people have been in our country for longer than many of you and I have been alive, right? Just because it doesn't say on a piece of paper that they are not Americans doesn't mean that they don't share the same dreams and resolve and hard work, and desire for a better life that Americans want. If anything, they want it more. They're desperate for it. They travel a distance that is unfathomable. You know, when you see the folks who come here without documentation, they are fleeing famine. They are fleeing some of the worst conditions on earth. They are fleeing violence. They are fleeing inhumane conditions that you would get up and take your kid or kids or aging grandmother or whomever or yourself and travel the distance that they do across some of the most rugged and dangerous terrain in the world just to come up against a river and then cross it into the US is incredibly difficult. I have a 5-year-old, okay? I can tell you with 100% ability that taking her anywhere on foot is nearly impossible. And these are folks that are doing it with their kids. So the desire there is not to subvert the American dream. The desire of these people is to share in the American dream and have a better chance at the future. So it's a very long way of saying that I think that we need to have dignity and respect in our system baked in at the base level. That we need a fair immigration reform, but also we need it to be compassionate. We need to do something to legalize the folks that are already here, and then make sure that going forward, it's not just, uh, you know, white South Africans that we're bringing in, because that's the baseline right now. The baseline right now under the Trump administration is we're going to bring in as many white South Africans that we can and nobody else. And we refuse to bring in anybody else, which is just fucking ridiculous. Let's face it. These folks are as racist as the day is long. And they know it because it's good for them. It's good for their brand. It's red meat to their base. So, anyway, next question or comment. Let's see here. Going back here. This is what the Republican Party is all about. Weekend at Bernie's puppet candidates representing oligarchs, not the majority of Americans. And that is by Insta Mickey G's. I think I'm saying that right. Insta Mickey G's. And I'm going to say they're from Spokane. I don't know if they're. You're right. The Republican Party is playing Weekend at Bernie's with a sitting senator now. I do not think that they are being honest. I think that what we saw with Dianne Feinstein is probably a lot of what's going on right now. If you're not familiar, Dianne Feinstein was a senator from California, a very long sitting senator, spent a lot of time in her seat, and even going through various levels of health maladies, she wouldn't give up her seat. And eventually, she was cognitively impaired in Senate hearings, right? Just wasn't there. Now, the process by which this happened, I think, is that you have staffers who don't want to give up the life of perceived luxury by access to power, right? That the staffers on the left and the staffers on the right, no different, right? A DC staffer from the right and a DC staffer from the left, at least in my experience, they're very similar people. Somebody who makes it to that level of working in the Senate or the House, very similar people, right? They obviously believe different things, and but their vested interest is not in creating, I'd say, brilliant new government. Their vested interest is keeping their guy there, right? And amassing a little bit more power to run a committee, to do a thing. Now, this is the DC people. I'm not including like your local district office person. Your district office person is probably a normal human being. Like if you go into a congressman's office, shout out to my congressman, Brendan Boyle. Very nice guy. If you go into a congressional office and you got a problem with your passport, or you need some help with X, Y, and Z, getting, signed up for some federal program, they're going to help you. They are not the problem. They are the normies. They are the normies in politics. They're good people. They generally believe in this. They want to help. They're the ones who actually want to see good government work. The folks down in DC, I'm painting with a very large brush here, I think have a much bigger interest in keeping their guy there. They want to see their guy stay there. And the way that they flow in and out on their actual beliefs, I think is a little bit more fungible, right? They're able to blow with the wind a little bit more, which isn't necessarily the worst possible thing sometimes, but a lot of the time you get a staffer, especially when it is an ailing, aging senator that's old, that shouldn't have been in the seat since the 80s or 70s, uh, that they are older than literal the debut of color television. When those folks are sitting in their seat, the staffer in charge, the head guy, gets to play senator. The chief of staff gets to play senator. They get to sit there and go, well, you know, this is how Dianne Feinstein really feels about that because I'm the Dianne Feinstein whisperer. And they get to play senator. Nobody elected them. Nobody elected them. Nobody went out there and said, Mr. Staffer, who went to GW, really dunking on GW today. Mr. Staffer that went to GW, yes, I would love to hear your opinion about how Dianne Feinstein should vote on this thing. Because Dianne Feinstein is in the hospital for the 8th time in 2 months. And then when she gets out of the hospital, they wheel her in a wheelchair to the committee hearing. And this isn't a thing about wheelchairs. There's plenty of people in Congress that sit in government that are in a wheelchair or otherly abled. This is about their cognitive ability to do the job, their ability to manage a staff of hundreds, to read the bills that you're voting for, and to actually be responsive to the voters. That's what we're talking about. That's why Democrats don't have a large part of them a dissatisfaction with the party. That's why they feel like they're not being listened to, because they don't see what they believe in reflected in what Democrats are doing up on the Hill. And now you might shout back, but Jack, uh, Democrats don't hold power. How can they govern if they don't hold power? How can they pass bills to make the Democrats happy if they don't hold power? And I would say, but they sometimes do. And when they do, I don't think that they are very efficient with their time. And that is a very generous way of saying that. I don't think that they are very expeditious with passing all the beautiful legislation that they run on. They're not living for tomorrow, or they're not living for today. If the best of them think, oh, well, we'll try to get this passed down the road, but the road never comes. They etch away at their ability to hold power. And I think that nothing is more evident in this than what happened to Democrats when they had the supermajority. When they had the supermajority. Now, you might say, okay, but the people that were involved in the supermajority, you had Joe Manchin, who was staunchly against this shit, wouldn't do it, wouldn't pass it. but there was other stuff, right? There was other political capital to be spent. And I think that that's the problem. I think that people don't believe now that Democrats are going to do what they say they want to do. I don't think they believe them, which is sad. All right. We're going to leave it there. The email is jack@foobarpack.org. I am your host, have been your host, Jack Eineker. Thank you for coming and hanging out with us for nearly 2 hours. I hope you have a great day, and go Birds. Thanks for coming.